Welcome to the Cenario Podcast, your guide to mental health and well-being. Each episode, we uncover practical tools, discuss expert insights, and explore how supplements can transform your mental health journey. Get ready to learn, grow, and thrive with us.
All right, let's dive in. We're tackling nightmares today. You guys have given us a ton to unpack here, some really intense stuff. So we're going to figure these things out. Those vivid, kind of scary experiences you have while you're asleep.
What we're seeing from all this is that a nightmare is basically a super vivid, really unsettling thing that happens when you're sleeping. Like, it's the kind of dream that makes you suddenly wake up heart pounding and you feel scared, anxious, and that feeling, it can linger, you know? And the interesting thing is, these usually happen during REM sleep.
REM sleep.
Right, the rapid eye movement stage. It's when our dreaming is the most active.
Okay, that makes sense. So I think the first question that pops into your head after a really bad nightmare is like, is this normal? Should I be worried? And the information we have, it kind of addresses that. It suggests that having a bad dream every now and then is pretty normal, but if they're happening all the time, well, that might be a sign of something else going on.
Exactly. I mean, everyone has a weird, disturbing dream once in a while, right? It's part of being human. But if you're having them, like, several times a week, and they're really messing with your sleep, making you stressed, worried, maybe even making you not want to go to sleep at all, that's when it's worth digging a little deeper. You know, the sources point to things like maybe it's a mental health thing or a sleep disorder or even something from your past that you haven't dealt with.
Okay, so that's kind of our mission for this deep dive then, right? To go through all this information and figure out the why behind nightmares, what causes them, how they affect our sleep and our overall well-being, and then, most importantly, what can we actually do about it?
Absolutely. Understanding the causes is the first step to finding solutions, right? And the material you've given us breaks it down into a few key areas, starting with, like, our psychological and emotional state. Makes sense, right? It's all connected.
It totally does. Like, what's going on in our waking lives must affect what we dream about. And the sources back that up. They say our brains actually use dreams to process emotions. So if we're dealing with a lot of stress, anxiety, like those everyday worries, personal issues that are bugging us, work pressure, it's no wonder those things seep into our dreams and turn them bad.
Yeah, when we're stressed, our emotions are heightened, and that can definitely translate into more intense, more negative feelings in our dreams. It's like our brains are working overtime even when we're trying to rest. There's even research suggesting that high cortisol levels from being stressed out mess with REM sleep regulation, and that, in turn, could lead to more negative dreams.
It's like a domino effect. And then there's trauma, particularly PTSD. The sources mention that for people with PTSD, nightmares aren't just bad dreams. They often involve reliving really traumatic memories or even twisted versions of those events. And waking up from those, I can only imagine how intense that feeling must be.
Yeah, it's not just unsettling for people with PTSD. It's like they're right back in that traumatic moment. And that leads to major sleep problems and just overall emotional distress, the hyperarousal that comes with PTSD, that feeling of always being on edge, doesn't switch off when they fall asleep. So those dreams become super vivid, super disturbing.
It's heartbreaking, really. And then the information links nightmares to other mental health conditions, too, like depression, bipolar disorder, generalized anxiety disorder. It suggests those conditions can either trigger bad dreams or be a result of them, as our minds struggle with all those difficult emotions.
Exactly. These conditions often involve increased anxiety and what they call emotional dysregulation. It's basically having trouble managing your emotions, and that can definitely affect what we dream about. It's almost like our subconscious is still processing those difficult emotions while we sleep. The sources make a good point about suppressing emotions during the day, too. You know, those unresolved feelings, they might come out in our dreams as these unsettling experiences.
Oh yeah, that makes a lot of sense. Like, if you're bottling things up all day, it's got to come out somewhere. And sometimes it seems that somewhere is our dreams. So we've covered the psychological and emotional stuff. What about actual sleep disorders themselves? How do those play into it?
Well, the information's pretty clear that sleep disorders can mess with our sleep patterns, our sleep architecture, it's called, like the way we cycle through different stages of sleep. And that disruption, it can definitely make bad dreams worse. Sleep deprivation is a big one. When we don't get enough sleep, it can actually lead to more frequent nightmares. And then there's insomnia, trouble falling asleep or staying asleep, that can contribute too.
This is interesting because the sources also talk about sleep apnea, where your breathing stops and starts while you're sleeping. It says that can lead to fragmented REM sleep, which then causes more vivid and unsettling dreams. That connection's not so obvious at first.
You're right. With sleep apnea, every time your breathing gets interrupted, your oxygen levels drop, and it can cause these brief awakenings that you might not even be aware of. But it messes with your sleep cycle, fragments it, and that can lead to more intense, more memorable dreams, including nightmares. Oh, and they also mention REM sleep behavior disorder, where people actually act out their dreams. It's not always a nightmare, but the main difference is that physical acting out compared to the feeling of dread and fear you get when you wake up from a regular nightmare.
So it's not just what's going on in our minds, but also what's happening physically while we sleep. And what about what we put into our bodies? The sources discuss medications and substance use as potential factors too.
For sure, some substances can change our brain chemistry, and that can definitely affect our dreams. The sources specifically mention antidepressants, especially SSRIs, which affect serotonin levels in the brain. And they also talk about beta blockers, how they can sometimes cause more vivid, more emotionally intense dreams as a side effect.
Right, and then alcohol, drugs, and even going through withdrawal from those substances, those can all mess with our sleep and cause some pretty unsettling dream patterns. It's like our brains are trying to find that balance again, and that process shows up in our dreams.
Exactly. Those substances disrupt our normal sleep cycle and the balance of chemicals in our brain, and that can definitely lead to more frequent and disturbing dreams. Then there's our lifestyle and diet, things we have a bit more control over, right?
Totally. It's crazy how our daily habits can affect what we dream about. The sources say that eating heavy meals before bed can actually increase metabolism and brain activity, which can lead to more vivid dreams. So that late-night snack might be the culprit behind some of those wild dreams.
It's possible. When your body's working hard to digest a big meal, it can rev up your brain activity even during sleep, and that can make those dreams more intense. And then there's the usual suspects: caffeine, nicotine, energy drinks. If you have those close to bedtime, they mess with your sleep big time.
And finally, they talk about irregular sleep patterns. If you're not going to bed and waking up around the same time every day, that can throw off your REM sleep and make you more prone to those unsettling dreams. It's all connected, isn't it? It seems that by sticking to a regular sleep schedule, you're helping to regulate your body's internal clock, that circadian rhythm, which then affects your hormones and your sleep cycles. And ultimately, you're less likely to have sleep disruptions that can trigger nightmares.
It really is. Our sleep is this complex system, and so many things can affect our dreams. So we've looked at the causes, but what about the impact? How do these frequent nightmares actually affect us, our sleep, and just how we feel overall?
Well, the most obvious one is probably sleep deprivation. If you're constantly being woken up by nightmares, you're not getting that deep, restful sleep that your body and mind need. And the sources say that REM sleep is super important for things like how well we think and how we process emotions. So if it's constantly being interrupted, it's no wonder we end up feeling tired and groggy during the day.
Right, and it's a vicious cycle. Because the less restful sleep you get, the more vulnerable you become to stress and anxiety, which we know can trigger even more nightmares.
And the sources talk about something called sleep anxiety, which can lead to insomnia. If you're constantly dreading having another nightmare, it makes sense that you start to feel anxious about going to sleep. And then that fear can make it hard to fall asleep or stay asleep, and bam, you've got insomnia caused by the fear of bad dreams.
Exactly. It's like that feeling of dread before a test or something. It can really mess with your ability to relax and fall asleep. And avoiding sleep because of that fear just makes the whole problem worse. More sleep deprivation, more stress. It's a downward spiral.
It's scary how quickly it can snowball.
Yeah.
And it doesn't stop there. This lack of deep sleep, it leads to fatigue during the day, trouble concentrating, memory problems, all those things that affect our work, our studies, just our ability to function normally.
Absolutely. When our sleep is constantly being disrupted by nightmares, our brains just don't work as well. We can't focus, we can't remember things, it's harder to make decisions. And probably the most concerning thing the sources talk about is how these chronic sleep problems caused by nightmares can actually worsen our mental health. It can increase stress, anxiety, and make things like depression even worse.
So it's really about that bigger picture impact, right? It's not just about having a bad dream here and there. Frequent nightmares can have these long-term consequences for our emotional well-being, our cognitive function, and ultimately our overall quality of life. So given all of that, it kind of begs the question, are nightmares always a bad thing? Or could there be, like, a flip side?
That's a great question, and the information we have, it offers a more balanced view. On the one hand, it's clear. Frequent nightmares are bad. They mess with your sleep, increase stress, and impact your mental health. But then on the other hand, it suggests that the occasional nightmare might actually be a way for us to process emotions, fears, things we haven't dealt with.
So it's like our brains are trying to work through things, even if it's in this kind of unsettling way.
That's the idea. It could be a normal brain function. But the sources stress that it only becomes a problem when it happens too often. It's all about the frequency and how much it's affecting you.
That makes sense. Now, I know a lot of people are curious about the meaning of their dreams. The sources touch on some common nightmare themes. Let's break down a few of those. One that always seems to come up is falling. What do the sources say about that one?
So dreams about falling, they're super common. And the sources link them to feelings of anxiety, instability, or that sense of losing control in life. Maybe even relating back to attachment theory a bit, it could sometimes be about feeling insecure deep down. And this losing control feeling could be about anything, really. Work problems, relationships, money worries, just feeling uncertain about the future. And just the sensation of falling itself, it could also point to feeling overwhelmed, powerless.
It's like when you feel like things are slipping away from you and you can't do anything about it. Another one that seems pretty universal is being chased. What could that mean?
The sources say that being chased in a dream often means you're trying to avoid something in your waking life. Could be a problem, a past trauma, a specific fear you have. And get this, the thing chasing you, it might actually give you a clue about what your subconscious is trying to run from. These dreams often happen when we're super stressed or when we're consciously or unconsciously avoiding a tough decision.
Wow. Makes you think about what you might be running from. Here's one that's always freaked me out. Dreaming about your teeth falling out. The sources actually address that one too.
They do, and apparently it's pretty common. Dreaming about losing teeth, it often reflects deeper insecurities, maybe a fear of getting older or feeling like you're losing control of who you are. It could also be about worrying about your image, how people see you, or even big life changes like changing careers or a breakup. The sources also say it can be about feeling powerless in situations where you can't truly express yourself.
It's crazy how these weird dream symbols can connect to real-life anxieties. What about the opposite then? Dreaming about flying, that often feels pretty positive. What's the interpretation there?
So dreaming about flying, according to the sources, usually represents a desire for freedom, ambition, breaking free from limitations. It can be a sign of confidence, feeling empowered. But if you're struggling to stay in the air, that might reflect doubts you have, a fear of failing, or maybe difficulty actually achieving your goals. And the feeling you get while you're flying in the dream, whether it's joyful and easy or like you're really having to work at it, that can give you more insight too.
So even in a positive feeling dream, there can be these subtle hints about what's going on beneath the surface. Okay, last common nightmare, being late. We've all had that one at some point.
Oh yeah, for sure. Dreams about being late, they usually come from stress related to time pressure or that fear of missing out on something important. It could be about feeling unprepared, overwhelmed with responsibilities, or even worried about disappointing other people. And they often pop up when we're going through big life changes or if we're struggling with procrastination.
It's like our minds are taking those everyday anxieties and turning them into these dream scenarios. Okay, so we've covered what nightmares are, why they happen, and even some possible meanings. Now let's get to the practical stuff. How can we actually stop these nightmares and get better sleep? The sources offer a bunch of different strategies.
They do, and they stress that it's not a one-size-fits-all solution. It's about finding what works for you. But the first big area they focus on is improving sleep hygiene. It's basically all about creating those healthy sleep habits that set you up for good rest, like having a consistent sleep routine, going to bed and waking up around the same time each day. That helps regulate your body's natural clock, your circadian rhythm, which affects your hormones and sleep cycles. And when those are in sync, you're less likely to have sleep disruptions that can trigger nightmares.
It's like setting your body clock, making sure it's running smoothly. What else is involved in good sleep hygiene?
Creating a relaxing sleep environment is key. That means making sure your bedroom is dark, quiet, and at a comfortable temperature. No distractions. The sources also say to avoid screens like your phone, TV, computer at least an hour before bed. That blue light messes with your melatonin production, which is the hormone that helps you sleep. And then there's cutting back on stimulants in the evening like caffeine, nicotine, alcohol. Those can really mess with your deep sleep.
Yeah, all those things we know we should be doing, but sometimes it's hard to stick to them. But it sounds like they can really make a difference, especially when it comes to nightmares. What about actively trying to relax before bed? The sources mention some techniques for that.
Oh yeah. Relaxation techniques are a game changer. They can help you de-stress before you even hit the pillow, which makes those disturbing dreams less likely. The sources talk about meditation and deep breathing. Even just a few minutes of mindfulness or guided breathing can calm your mind down. Progressive muscle relaxation is another one. That's where you tense and release different muscle groups, and it can really help relieve physical tension. And then there's journaling before sleep, which I thought was interesting. The idea is that by writing down your worries and emotions, you're processing those subconscious fears before you fall asleep.
That's a good one. It's like clearing your mind, getting it all out on paper.
Yeah.
The sources also talk about diet and lifestyle changes, beyond just avoiding stimulants before bed.
Right. They emphasize cutting out caffeine, nicotine, and energy drinks at least 6 hours before sleep. And they suggest avoiding heavy or spicy meals late at night because those can overstimulate your brain and interfere with sleep. And regular exercise is good for your sleep overall, but the key is to avoid intense workouts too close to bedtime.
So it's really about setting yourself up for success with good habits. Now, the sources also mention trying natural supplements to help you relax, regulate your sleep, and reduce stress. They point out that while there's some scientific support for these, everyone reacts differently. So it's always best to talk to your doctor first, Rana. Can you tell us a bit about some of these ingredients that are mentioned?
Absolutely. They talk about valerian root, which is a natural sedative. It can help calm anxiety and improve sleep quality. Another one is passion flower, which is known for soothing the nervous system, making it easier to fall asleep and stay asleep. And then there's melatonin, of course, which helps regulate your sleep-wake cycle. Magnesium is mentioned too because it helps muscles relax and can balance out your nervous system, which can help with stress-related sleep problems. L-theanine is an amino acid that's known for its calming effects without making you drowsy. And finally, they talk about GABA, a neurotransmitter that quiets the mind and helps you get deeper, more restful sleep.
It sounds like there are some natural options out there that could be helpful for some people as long as they're careful and talk to their doctor first. Now, for those dealing with more persistent nightmare problems, the sources recommend looking into therapy.
Right. If you're having these disturbing dreams all the time and they're really impacting your life, therapy can be incredibly helpful in addressing the root causes. Cognitive behavioral therapy, or CBT, is one they mention. It helps you identify and work through the underlying stress, anxiety, or emotional triggers that might be affecting your sleep. Then there's image rehearsal therapy, or IRT. That one's specifically for rewriting those recurring nightmares, making them less intense and scary. And for nightmares related to trauma, there's exposure therapy. It's done with a therapist, and it involves gradually exposing yourself to those triggering memories in a safe and controlled environment to help lessen the intensity of those nightmares.
Those sound like really effective, targeted approaches for people who are struggling with chronic nightmares. And finally, the sources stress the importance of knowing when to seek medical help.
Definitely. If your sleep problems are severe, if they just won't go away, or if they're affecting your daily life in a big way, it's crucial to talk to a doctor. A sleep specialist or therapist can help you figure out what's causing those sleep disruptions. And if medications are thought to be a trigger, they might need to be adjusted. And as we discussed earlier, if those nightmares are tied to underlying conditions like PTSD, anxiety, or depression, getting treatment for those can often lead to more peaceful nights.
So the main takeaway here is that while the occasional nightmare is normal, frequent disruptive ones can really mess with our sleep and our well-being. But the good news is that we can often identify the triggers and take steps to minimize their impact.
Absolutely. Good sleep hygiene, relaxation techniques, a balanced lifestyle, those are all key to reducing sleep disturbances. If you're dealing with persistent nightmares, don't hesitate to reach out for professional help. Therapy or medical consultation can offer real solutions and support.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive into the world of nightmares, here's something to think about. Given how connected our waking emotions and our dreams are, what small change could you make in your day, or in how you wind down before bed? That might have a positive impact on your sleep, and maybe even on what you dream about.
That's a great point to end on. And remember, sometimes those recurring dream themes, they might be trying to tell you something. It might be worth exploring what those themes represent in your life, what unresolved issues they might be pointing to.
And for those of you who want to dig even deeper, the information we use for this episode also mentions a free ebook called The Deep Sleep Manual. It has more strategies for getting better sleep. Might be worth checking out if you're on a mission for more restful nights. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
Thanks for tuning in to the Cenario podcast. Don't forget to visit Cenario.com for more expert tips, articles, and supplements designed to support your mental health. If you enjoyed this episode, remember to subscribe and share it with a friend. Until next time, take care of yourself.